Episode 159 of the HHH Racing Podcast is brought to you by the Adelphi Racing Club. Adelphi offers an interactive ownership experience with real-time access to other partners, trainers, bloodstock advisors, and other members of the team. I should know because I am a club member. Join the Adelphi Racing Club and enjoy watching this spot that you can see on America's Day at the Races, and you might find someone that looks familiar at the end of it. We'll be starting the show shortly.
Adelphi Racing Club, offering a truly personal racing experience. Looking to own thoroughbred racehorses and win at the highest level circuits? We're not just a syndicate, and our members aren't just investors. We are partners. Experience the Adelphi difference. Join the club today. Contact us to get a taste of the Adelphi experience and come hang with us this Saratoga meet.
And now let's start episode 159 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good evening and welcome to episode 159 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. I am pumped. I am excited. I think many of you know because in about, what time is it? About 14 hours. We got to put the banner up. In about 14 hours, I will be in Saratoga Springs. There we go. One day. It's my first trip ever to Saratoga. I'm very excited for that. Glad you can join us on my personal last show this week, but it's not the last show of the week of the HHH Racing Podcast. We'll be talking about that. Make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit that notification bell. That'll tell you when new content will rise. Also, smash that like button. That'll tell YouTube and its viewers this is a great show and they should follow. You guys know the drill. You can follow me on Twitter at H Kravitz. And by the way, I'm going to have a lot of really cool interactive stuff on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, but you don't follow me, please do so because I believe I'm an excellent follow. I'm going to have great pictures, videos, a lot of cool stuff coming up this weekend for my first trip to Saratoga. So please follow me on Twitter. Of course, on the bottom of the screen, you can also see my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. And also on the bottom of the screen, you'll see here in just a second, I'm promoting tomorrow night's show. Tomorrow night, we'll be covering the Great Stakes Day. It's Haskell Day at Monmouth on Saturday. The past performances will be coming out late afternoon tomorrow evening. And my awesome co-hosts, who I'll bring on here in just a second, Pete Visco and Paul Halloran, will be covering for me tomorrow. So Pete Visco is making his hosting debut. I know he's really pumped up for that. I'm sure it's going to go perfectly. By the way, this hosting thing is not easy. There's a lot of technical stuff behind the scenes you don't know about. So Pete's going to do awesome, full confidence. But if there's a glitch or two, don't hold that against him because I sure as hell made plenty of mistakes when I first started doing this. In fact, I still make mistakes. So excited to have them on. Please join us tomorrow night, also 8 p.m. Eastern. Let's see. I have a few other things I want to mention, but I think we should just bring on my great co-hosts right now so they can join in on a few of the other announcements. So let's bring them on. The new host of the HHH Racing Podcast, well, at least for one night, Pete Visco, and for the Saratoga special, Paul Halloran. Guys, how you doing tonight?
What's happening, Howard?
Doing good.
Hello,
Pete,
Howard.
ready for the big show tomorrow? Are we nervous? We have to backstage chills.
No, not nervous. Just it'd be nice if the PPs and the entries actually came out and Monmouth, didn't wait so long. But other than that, everything's going to be all good.
Be keen. Everything is just fine. Again, for those of you that were with us last week, I apologize. Everything's going to be just fine now. There's going to be no worries. No Darth Vader from Paul Halloran. I think everything's going to be just fine. So it's going to be all good. Tony, we're going to be talking about Tony A. Thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about the Haskell tomorrow. These great guys, right? Let's see if I can do. Oh, it's so hard to do it when you're opposite. Whatever. These other guys are going to be talking about the Haskell tomorrow. I'll give my opinion. Tabo or Jack Christopher. How about that, guys? I'm pretty creative, right? Those are probably one of your winners, although we haven't even seen the entries yet. Let's see. Oh, Pete, you already answered the Tony A. I just saw that. Phil Conti, thanks for being here tonight. C Money is here. C Money, hello. Siggy Mendoza, Siggy, we got to get you on the show. If you don't follow Siggy Mendoza on Twitter, he's a great follow on Twitter. Siggy, thanks for joining the show. I'm going to contact you, man. We're going to get you on the show live. You're going to be our guest. This show wouldn't be the same without Penn State Scott, who ordered merchandise. And by the way, I don't know if you guys can see, there it is. I got my quarter zip. This is the quarter zip. I ordered a bunch of goodies. Mine have already come in. I got a special order. Those of you that ordered goodies, by the way, on the merch, the store closed. And now it's going to take, what I think they said, 10 business days. So you're still going to have to wait about 2 weeks or so for your merchandise, just to let everyone know. But your merchandise is officially ordered and on the way. Let's see. Charles B., welcome to the show tonight. Pete, I think you should introduce, well, I'll go ahead and bring it up, but I want to give you full credit. We have something brand new that I give full credit to Pete Bisco. I take zero credit for this whatsoever. I think you know what I'm talking about. Pete, let me bring up the new HHH Racing podcast website. Pete, I'm going to bring it up and you can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, Paul was surprised as well. I forgot to send it to you, Paul, but it's actually live. So again, this is just, it makes us look more official, but obviously it's really for, it's for content. So if you want to subscribe, if you need links, or if you want to, if you're telling a friend about the show and they want some more information before they actually watch, this is a place to go. And you could see we have some podcast samples, just some featured ones. These don't update, just so everyone knows, they don't update with each podcast that's released. I mean, you can get that on YouTube. This is just a way to show, hey, we have a few different types of pods. We have our regular handicapping pods, our snapshots, our interviews. Howard has some handicapping tips and tools that he's posted. Yeah, there's a couple tutorials. So those are good watches for everyone, especially the new or inexperienced bettors. Then we have, we put out the race day blog and the stats of the day each week. So for those of you that subscribe to that, you already know what that is. For those of you who don't, but you hear about it, here's a way to go on the website and see some past examples. So in case you were a little reticent about subscribing, now you could see sort of, here's what we get. Here's what we send out, what the listeners and viewers get. And here's sort of how it's laid out. Here's some, you see the spot plays, you see the ABC grid, you see the caveman ticket. So this is all the information.
Can we talk about this page for a second, Pete?
I mean, that's a good page. I'm glad that one's up there because the Balagamba won for sure. Eon's one, right? I don't remember.
For some bizarre reason, I skipped the Saratoga page. But Saratoga was very difficult on Saturday. But if I can allow myself to toot my own horn, Laurel worked out fantastic for me. This is why people need to get the blog, because I don't send out, even money shots. And Eon's, I'll make it full screen. Eon's won for us. He got bet down to 2-1. He did get DQ'd into the win, but he was a very deserving winner. If you watch the race, he definitely got bothered. Balagama, my play of the day right here, the race 9, won at 9-2. Initially enough, I thought he'd be about 92, as you can see on the screen. I just happened to be right. And then Pick and Time, I won't say he's disappointing, guys, because as you can see, I'll try to make it a little bit bigger here. I did say to use underneath in second and third. Mainly he finished third, although I thought he could have run a little better, but he did finish third. So you had a chance to pick up some tries there. And then Beach Glass, actually, I threw a little hardest in there. Beach Glass won, but that was not saying much because he was like 2-5. But anyway, this is the example of the race day blog. Go ahead, Pete. I'll go back to the main page here.
No, but I think, again, this is for people who, if you weren't sure what it was, so you weren't sure about signing up, that's the blog. And then here's the sort of the stats of the day, which this is something that I put together, and it's basically just using, we've talked about it before, but it's basically just using Formulator and pulling out key statistics, not necessarily ones, again, they're not ones to make you decide one way or the other. It's just data, so you can have it without, if either you don't subscribe to Formulator, you don't have access to it, or you just don't have the time to dig into every horse. I try and do that for our subscribers, and we send this out. Usually it mirrors the tracks and the races that Howard covers on the race day blog.
And Pete, by the way, I won't say you've been getting some shade, but it's the dangerous part of Twitter. You were bold and put out the stat about Irad and Chad Brown. I know you have it on here, and they did not, of course, win on Saturday, which we're going to talk about just a minute. So again, these stats, and you mentioned at the beginning, I just want everyone to be clear if you end up getting the race day blog that, and you have the disclaimers up here, but they're just meant as guides, not meant as, sure things one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that conversation was good because sometimes I don't know enough about training horses myself to know why a stat happens and why it may be relevant or why it may be actually true. And so I sit there and go, hey, here's the stat. If you like it, you use it. If you don't, you don't. That's about it. There's those handsome fellas.
This is definitely the sharpest looking icon in the entire.
I mean,
screen.
that's
I thought it was interesting that you actually have. Is the horse giving him like the side eye there, or what's going on there?
No, he's probably like, man, this guy is. I wish this guy was riding me instead of this other.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. Paul looks like he might want to eat you there, or she. I don't know. You gotta be careful. And then there's you can contest that such. So anyway, just shout out to Pete. I want to show everyone there that we. Whoops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Let's go back to us here. I just wanted to show that as our website, and the website is. The site
is hhracingpodcast.com. Nice and simple.
hhhracingpodcast.com.
Yes.
Again, hhhracingpodcast.com. And Pete, you're going to be updating that a little bit as we go along with like race day blogs and any other cool videos we have or whatever might be coming up, correct?
Yeah, it'll expand. This is just sort of a first crack just to get it out there and then to have some useful information so people can see more about what we do and what we're about. And then, we'll expand it as we go.
Terrific. And Paul, as usual, does really nothing for the show other than just come on and talk about I'm just kidding. Paul, did you have a good interview Saturday with the owner of, a Great Navigator, correct? And, I'll tell you, Nick, we're going to talk about it. Nick Tamro absolutely crushed the Sanford, knocked it out of the park. He liked the 6. He liked Great Navigator, who closed big for second. If you paid attention to our show, guys, on Thursday night, Nick was awesome in that race. But anyway, Paul, how was your weekend? The Great Navigator was a nice story. He finished a good second.
Yeah, well, myself too, Howard. That race covered up for it. It didn't get me out for the weekend, but it, the exacta was $155 for $1. I also liked the 6 quite a bit, and played the 3. This is the rare occasion where the horse. I always play the horses I write about, and every once in a great while they run. But it really was a good story. Eddie Owens Jr., no one's ever heard of, longtime assistant to Joe Asano, who was perennially, as Pete I'm sure knows, a top Monmouth trainer, and just been out on his own for a few years, and took a swing, and the horse ran better than 10 other horses in that race. He clearly was second best, and we'll see what they do next. But it was good. Spoke to him Friday before he shipped, and spoke to the jockey. He that's something we talk about a lot. Do you stay with your own jockey, or do you put Louis Saez? I had in my story in the special Saturday. Kieran McLaughlin did call him to try to get Louis Saez on the horse because Louis did not have a mount in the Sanford, and he decided to stick with his guy, Jairo Rendon, who I thought rode a very good race. So it was that was fun, and hitting the exacta was made up for a lot of other. Ahead of time, it made up for a bad pick 6 play.
And Paul, we also got to see the flying Jamie Spencer twice. We saw him on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. We got to see him.
But the best, the best is, and I have to
Thanks,
laugh.
Matthew, for your comment, Matthew.
We talked about it on the show, and not only that, you get to see him on Saturday, and that horse finished dead last, by the way. And then Wesley Ward in that race on Sunday that I think only had 8 horses in it, because Big Invasion was the outside horse, right? Is the 8. So there's all sorts of guys in the room. And Wesley said, "Don't go back home, Jamie. Stay and ride my horse on Sunday." So hey, you know what, Howard? That's it's a pari-mutuel game, and people who want to keep playing Jamie Spencer over here gives the rest of us a chance.
Well, I will say, and I guess we can argue this another time. If you want to argue that he should have showed more speed, that's fine. But actually, I thought he gave him a good ride. To be honest, a good. You could complain about his style, but he gave him a good ride. He stayed ground, tipped out. The horse just had nothing. Let's see. We got a question. Jim has a where is the about the? Oh, there we go. Oh, that was Paul. Yeah, we're gonna be the blog is gonna be covered by Pete and Paul this weekend because I'm gonna be out of town in Saratoga. So Pete and Paul are writing the blog this weekend, which means there's gonna be wonderful picks for sure on there, and they are covering Monmouth and Saratoga. So we had a request, guys. Someone sent me an email, and I think it was a good email. That they want a little more of a heads up as to what the other track that we're gonna cover on the blog. So mental note for the three of us to make sure we do that because a few people would have liked to know ahead of time that I was going to play Laurel on the blog. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, I actually don't know until Thursday or Friday because I like to look at the entries and make a determination at that time. But Big Invasion, by the way, I think is a Breeders' Cup sprint threat, perhaps. That's a nice horse for Clements. And last thing before we go on, here's another reason why you should follow me on Twitter, folks. And I've said it time and time again. I take chances. I'm not going to throw out 2-to-1 shots. I threw out 6-to-1, 8-to-1 double digits. On Sunday, Ray Handel had a horse. I don't know which race it was. I believe it was race 9. The 6 horse called 3-2 Zone that I absolutely loved. I was my only tout on Twitter on Sunday. My only tout. Thankfully, the horse racing gods are on my side. 11-to-1. And I sent out the tweet like 2 hours before, and they sent it out again. Thank you, Ray Handel, 3-2 Zone. It wasn't only because it was Ray Handel. I watched the last race. Replays are so important. And these guys, Pete and Paul, do a great job watching replays. This horse won more distance. He was on the wrong lead last time. I actually talked to Ray Handel on my show about this horse. And, I thought he had a big shot. So all you that cashed on 3-2 Zone, congratulations. And Paul, similar to you, that horse basically didn't get me out for the weekend, but pretty damn close because Saratoga, as we're going to talk about right now, was a disaster. We can't always talk about the good things. We got to talk about things that didn't work out well for us because we have to be honest. So, guys, let's jump in right now, and we're going to do this very quickly, folks. Like literally just 5 minutes, and then we're going to talk about the late pick 5 tomorrow at Saratoga on Wednesday. So, guys, let me bring up the peep. Well, I just dropped it. Let me bring up the peepees. By the way, the sound was on for the Delphi commercial, correct? You guys heard the sound?
Yep, we heard it.
Make sure. Okay. Pete, I'm going to let you go first. In Italian wins the – let's go full screen. We're going to talk about that Diana very quickly. In Italian wins, paid $18.60. Technical analysis, excuse me, second. Bleecker Street third. You see the buyers right there. And, of course, the very left side buyer is the one they received. In Italian received a buyer top of 100. Pete, as I show the back half of the replay, and Paul, feel free to chime on top of him as well. What were your thoughts in general? This was a surprise to myself, and I believe you and a bunch of other people, but some people did like In Italian.
I mean, the biggest surprise to me, and when you thought there could be a little bit of trouble, was when Delica and technical analysis didn't go. Like, this is one of those New York races where you look at it and go, oh, good, there's some speed. I like the closers. There's some speed. There's multiple speed horses. We should get a decent pace. And we got a decent pace, but a really good horse can run a fast pace on the lead uncontested and win. And I thought the best thing that who is it? Rosario? Who's an Italian's jock? Why am I completely blanking right now?
Yeah, that was Rosario.
Yeah, Rosario. The one thing I like is at the top of the lane, sort of kicked away a little bit and put a little cushion.
I don't know about you, Pete or Paul, but right here, I really thought someone was going to get this horse. But Paul, this horse just kept going. And if you want to say it was because of the turf, I'm not sure that's fair to say because in general, closers have been doing very well on the turf so far, Paul.
Yeah, but usually when you see a track record on turf, it's someone setting a ridiculous pace and then someone flying late. This horse did all the dirty work, 22-2, 45-4, 109-2, finishes in 145.06, a new track record. Howard, I'm with you. I was into technical analysis, and we shouldn't even, we'll call him the R horse. We shouldn't mention his name because I am officially divorced from him because
divorce papers
we
are
were
out
both,
on the hour. Divorce
yeah, we
papers
just
are
couldn't.
out.
Yeah, forget about him. But it's one of those. Sometimes you're dead right, sometimes you're dead wrong. I was kind of in between. I did not think an Italian would go all the way. I thought technical analysis would be lying second and get first run on him and probably take the lead and then have to hold off Ruggiero and Bleecker Street. I only used Bleecker Street as a B. I ended up against him, even though he was seven. She was 7 for 7, so I was right about that. She had no excuse, but you got to tip your hat to an Italian, and that's why we talked to Chad or not to Chad. That was his fourth string in the race and wins. So.
Ruggiero might be the fourth string at this point.
Ruggiero is the 6th string.
Yeah,
at this
that's
point.
Go ahead. Sorry, Howard.
Someone put in the chat, and I saw it on Twitter too. Let's see if I can find the comment. As I'm talking, I'm looking through the comments. Here's my only, I guess, when I look back, I don't know about you guys, but I always look back and try to figure, like, where did I go wrong? If I went wrong. I mean, sometimes you just throw your hands in the air. Innitalent was only, 3 or 4 buyer points off. That's a length and a half. So what I was surprised was the distance. I mean, Chad never stretched her out, which was a concern for me. And I thought there was other speed in the race. So even though she cleared, I mean, she's never gone a mile and 1/8. And even when she gets like Churchill, I mean, Speak of the Devil was crazy, but I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, Innitalent got completely blown away by Speak of the Devil, and I don't know. I guess I just underestimated this horse. Obviously, is this like, can they stretch her out even further, Pete? To maybe the Breeders' Cup filling her turf varies on the distance. I think Keelan, don't quote me on this, I think Keelan is a mile and 3/16 if I'm trying to recall. I think they
right.
start. I'm pretty sure they start at the very top of the stretch. It's not 3 turns. I mean, I guess you got to consider this horse as a factor going forward too, or is this something she's got to prove it again, Pete?
I mean, I think she's got to probably prove it again, but it's also depends on, again, like any of these, it depends on the other speed in the race and if that speed actually makes a move and actually tries to contend. Whereas again, in this one, it looked like, I mean, you only had 6 horses and there was 3 speed horses in theory and only one went, and it's a good speed horse. It was maybe the best speed horse in the race. And when you get a good horse like that on the top, they can extend their range a little longer if they have it their way.
Yeah, B. Keen makes a good point. I really believe, and Paul, we're going to talk about this as we talk about the Pick 5 today. There's some weather changes coming in this week. There's some rain we're going to talk about. I have a feeling, guys, the turf might play a little differently this weekend. I have to be on my toes because I have to make sure that I'm prepared for how the turf may or may not play. Guys, let's talk very quickly about the Sanford as I get that up. Paul, I'm going to let you go first about this race. Anything you really want to talk about? Again, as I mentioned before, as I'm about to show the PPs here, Nick Tamro absolutely blasted this thing out of the park. I think on the show he had 3.6X. I can't recall he had the third. It came 6.3. Let's go ahead and show the PPs here, or the chart. The dollar exacta, Mo Strike over Great Navigator paid 155.75. I know some fans of the show and some fans of Nick Tamro had this race. I'll show again the back half of the race. Andiamo a Firenze finished third. Mo Strike was the favorite Churchill horse in this race of Nick Tamro. Paul, what struck you in this race?
Well, Howard, I went even after the show. I went back and watched a lot of replays on this race because, especially with the 2-year-olds, you have to, you got to use the eye test, and I really did like the 6. My A's in the race were the 3, 6, and 9, and I think they ran 1, 2, 3. I know it came back 6-3. So, and I did like the 3. I did like the 3, and you'll see the 3 is on the rail most of the race, and he is going to wait now and pull him outside. Now he's not going to catch the 6, but he didn't have the all-time greatest trip, and this 9, who was like a third choice, I think, he went by this horse pretty convincingly. So, but the 6 was clearly the best horse. Looks like he'll stretch out Brad Cox will train him up to the hopeful. So on the male side for the 2-year-olds, you have the Sanford, and then the next race up, if you so choose, the Saratoga Special is August 13th. And then, of course, the hopeful is closing day on Labor Day. So I think Brad Cox has already said very likely he'll train this horse up to the hopeful. You're going to be dealing with Damon Mound, potentially, a very good Michelle Level horse from Kentucky who's training at Colonial Downs, coming in for the Saratoga Special. And that field should be outstanding as well. But, yeah, this race, it didn't save the weekend for me, Howard, but it kept me, only under 2 or 3 feet of water instead of under the ocean.
By the way, here's Forte, the number 4, the Pletcher horse, who really, and Nick said it on the show. I mean, Nick's like everyone else. I mean, he's more right than we are most likely. But, I mean, Nick said that the field he beat was weak, and he's absolutely right because Forte had absolutely no excuses. And the horse I liked a little bit, Curly Jack, was right here, only finished a few lengths back, took a lot of pressure. I thought ran well. I want to push back, though, guys, on something. Jim, you just touched on a little bit, Paul, and Jim Pilars said that he was forced to pull 5 wide and lost several lengths. And I got to tell you guys, I'm going to disagree with you and Jim, Paul. And Pete, I'll let you have the last word. Pete will be the final determination. I thought Great Navigator got an absolutely green trip, 3/4 of the race. And if he was really that good, he's on the inside here, guys. I didn't really see an acceleration. Now, if he really had an acceleration, I think this is just my opinion, Pete. I think he could have flown through this hole. He seemed very one-pace to me, and it looked like he closed at the end of the race. But, Pete, I got to tell you, I don't really think he was really closing. I think the 9 was just getting tired. So, I guess it's up to everyone else. Obviously, Paul and Jim disagree.
Well, it was not a dream trip. For a 2-year-old to be down on the inside the whole backstretch.
But he was saving ground the whole time, though, Paul. He was saving
he was running in a straight line. How much ground is he saving running in a straight line on the inside?
Yeah,
I mean, he did get the rail. I mean, the rail did
not
get
have
taken
a dream
away.
Trip.
No, I think it's.
He didn't have a terrible trip. He did not have a terrible trip by any means, but I would not say he had a dream trip.
Maybe not dream trip, but Pete, could he have not come through this hole? I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm being too picky. I don't know. He saved a lot of ground, and I guess my main point, Paul, is when it looked like he closed at the end. I think that was really just the 9 getting tired. I think that's my main point.
Yeah, Howard, I think he was clearly the second best horse in the race, and he finished second.
Like he seems one pace here to me. Like he's not really. I mean, he tips out because he has. He's not flying here. Pete is my point.
Who in the race ran better than him other than the 6?
Well, no, and also I think too.
I agree with that. I agree
when you swing. I think he's closing late, but I think when you swing wide like that, like he didn't naturally smoothly swing wide. He did sort of one of those dive out wides. So that's just being green too.
Here's the gallop out. I mean, I don't. I mean, I guess you could say that's the 4. I don't know, guys. It's good. This is the great thing about horse racing, right? We can. The horse ran well. I mean, congratulations to the connections, and he was a price and blah blah blah. I don't know. I'm going to be a little bit cautious, but we'll see. Time will tell, Pete.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing: you have to look. I mean, this is their almost everyone's second race, and that'll change. They'll be able to take. I mean, like Paul said, though, he was taking dirt. I don't remember what his trip was in his first race, but he was taking dirt again on the rail, which that's a little tough for some. Maybe they don't always hit the hole the way they're supposed to. They get a little reticent to hit a hole, and then it closed off pretty quickly. So there's ways a horse can improve off that. You think the distance might help him. So, but again, Mo Strike was the only one. The only thing I want to point out, and you took it off, so it was on there.
Sorry about
that. That's okay. Is that I remember looking at a couple of the horses specifically, and all these horses ran pretty well in their last race. I mean, they won or they were pretty close, and they ran pretty well in terms of visual. But the funny thing was to me that the top 5 buyers in the prior race finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whereas, like, I was looking at a horse like Bapio and even Valenzen Day, who weren't that far off, but there were a couple of horses that had lower buyers, but you watch the race and go, yeah, but they looked pretty good. And then they wound up not running. Now, I don't know if that's just coincidence in this race, but it was just something I put in the back of my head to be wary of. Hey, a horse ran a 56, looked really good, but he ran a really low buyer. Maybe he isn't as good as visually maybe the race did. So the race was.
the last thing I'll say, and this is a cautionary tale for everyone, and I know Paul, I think, had the 9 third. I had the 9, I think, out of the money, if I recall. Pete, I can't recall where you had the 9, but just everyone be very cautious of that big number in the slop. I don't care if it's a first-time starter, if it's a horse that's run 20 times before. I mean, Andiamo Firenze ran great on paper first time out, guys, but it was a weak field, just wired the field in the slop, and obviously was much better than it looked because although he was 3 wide in the race we just watched, really didn't have that much excuse and really was tired late. So just cautionary tale for everyone, that big number in the slop. It's something I'm very
Plus he's
careful
a
about.
spice town, and I want to say his dam side might even be good in the slop if I remember my notes correctly. So that was one where you're cautious, regardless of the figure. You're cautious to say, I think one of my notes was, did this horse look so good because it was an off track based on his breeding, or is he just that good?
Sure. All right, well, guys, let's get into the pick 5 tomorrow. Now, the weather is going to be very hot tomorrow. Someone suggested, Paul, on Twitter to me, or maybe it was a DM. I've been very busy today thinking about tomorrow, that they might shorten the post parade. Is that something that they do, Paul, when it's really hot there? Can you see? I mean, I doubt they're going to cancel the races, and they're definitely not going to be starting the races early. I guess the only change you might see tomorrow is a short post parade. Would that be your guess, Paul? Because it is going to be pretty hot tomorrow.
Yeah, that's very possible because there is a lot of shade. The horses, the stalls, they're under cover inside in the paddock, so they're in a stall, so they're not in the sun. And there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of shade in the paddock. And I only remember them cancel them once. I think it was the day that Monmouth had to run the Haskell at like 7:00 at night, like about 3 years ago, if you recall that day.
Yes, I do.
I'm not so sure. Again, I haven't seen the forecast. I know. I'm in the Northeast. Pete, you're in the Northeast. In Boston, it was 90s today. It's going to be 90 for like the next 5 days. Saratoga is a wonderful, wonderful place, Howard. It's not necessarily the best place on earth when it's 95.
Well, fortunately for me, it looks like tomorrow, and I'm not getting until tomorrow late afternoon. I'm not sure I'm going to be at the races tomorrow. It's going to be hot. Thursday, just so everyone knows, for the weekend, not because I'm going to be there, but Thursday looks like the one day it could be a chance of rain, but not all day, like scattered thunderstorms, which happens, Paul, 40% of the time up there anyway. But it could be severe. It also might not rain at all, right, Paul? I mean, it's going to be one of those spotty, kind of strong thunderstorm kind of days. Friday and Saturday, from what I saw, guys, looks absolutely beautiful. A little on the warm side, high 80s. But almost no chance of rain, maybe very small chance of rain on Saturday. But just going to have to get through the next 48 hours where it's going to be hot tomorrow, and then maybe a chance of some strong storms on Thursday. If there's any day this weekend, for those who play Saratoga, if there's any day this weekend that you might see races taken off the turf or some changes, I would say it'd be Thursday. I think after that, Friday, they'll be on the turf, but there might be some early races taken off. We'll just have to see. Anyway, let's move on, guys, to the pick 5 here. Now, let's go full screen. I talked about 3-2 zone. It was a price play that I liked on Sunday. One for myself and a lot of other people at 11-1. Guys, I have a price play tomorrow, and I might get double digits. I don't know. And guess what? It comes in this very first leg of the pick 5 is my price play of the entire day and of the pick 5. So knock on wood, we'll see if Lightning can strike twice. And someone said, Howard, you only write like 4 or 5 times out of, like once out of 4 or 5. Guys, if you're throwing out 8 to 10-1 shots, do the math. You only have to write 8 to 10 times, once out of 8 to 10 times to break even. Now, I don't plan on breaking even. But again, when you're throwing out prices, you're not going to be right as often. But when you are, you get to really crush it. Pete, I'm going to let you go first. So I go back and bring up the condition here and the Equibase. It starts about 3:55 Eastern Standard Time, race 6. These are older, salty veterans, 40 claimers. They're going 6 furlongs. There's the field. The Moorline favorite is the number 6, Happy Farm, a Florida bred. And the first thing I noticed about this race, Pete, this is like the old fogies race. There's 3 8-year-olds, which is very rare. You don't see that too often. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there are 3 8-year-olds in this race. And you were going with one of those 8-year-olds, number 5, Aristocratic for Falcone and Rosario, a very speedy horse out of the gate.
Yeah, and that was my thought. As the more I looked at it, so on paper, when I first look at it, you think, hey, there's a decent amount of speed. There's three. If you look at the time form ratings, there's a 109, a 110, and a 127. This one's the
Yeah.
127. So it looks like a lot of speed, but this one could just be the speed of the speed. And sometimes the speed of the speed is just better than the others. And it gets out and it can hold. And it's cutting back a little bit, which I like. So it definitely likes this distance. If you can see on the screen there, it's 15 out of 24 at the distance. 3 out of 3 in the money at Saratoga. It doesn't have a win yet there, but it's been knocking on the door at least. And then you have Falcone's he's like 7 for 14 wins, 12 for 14 in the money, first after a claim in dirt sprints. So he can have this horse ready.
Repeat that last thought one more time.
He's 7 for 14 wins, 12 for 14 in the money, first after claims in dirt sprints. So. Wow. This is one that I'm just hoping, and he's got races back where he held mostly going 6 furlongs. Those last 2 wins were at 6 furlongs in sort of similar, a little less company, but not too far off. So I think this one, I'm just taking a shot, speed of the speed.
And then Wendell Fong in second, who I have third.
Yeah, and my thought there, it's funny, the 3 horses I took the speed, I took Wendell Fong because I think he's the best closer, and if it does heat up, and if it's not just Aristocratic getting a chance to run away and say Coppertown and Happy Farm or whoever else sort of make the pace heat up a bit, I think Wendell Fong's the best closer, so that's why I sort of went with him. And then actually my third choice is sort of an in the middle. He should be sitting just off the speed, which is the 2. So my thought was I'm going to have somebody on the front, I'm going to have somebody sitting just off, and I'm going to have a closer. So hopefully one of those 3 can cover me along the way.
Paul, you're sort of like me. You're going with a price too. This is an interesting horse for Dallas Stewart. I still think he's underrated trainer, if that's even possible. West Point thoroughbred. So this horse can take some money for sure. Shadow Matter, 8-1 morning line.
Yeah, I looked at the race, Howard. I would. I thought the 2, 3, 5, and 6 were all, potential winners here. I went with the 2 higher priced ones of the 2 and 3. Although the 2 is 3-1 morning line. That's Mirkan Cantamachi, who is 22% off the claim at Saratoga. Yeah. Dallas is 1 for his last 28 at Saratoga, so he is, that is not a.
He's due.
This horse. It looks like this horse is well intentioned. He's dropping. The horse has been. He was up for a tag last time for 62K, 62.5. But I think the 6 is going to be overbet here, who I think is a logical horse. I agree with Pete. I think the 5's a speed, but if he's not alone, as I say, I thought 4 of them could win. I went with the 2 higher priced than my pick 5.
All right, guys, here we go. Here's my 3-2 zone pick of the day. And someone already, I think C Money already mentioned it. I'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and bring us on screen a little bit. Guys, I looked at this race a long time. Let me just say this first of all. No disrespect to anyone out there who is of an older age. I'm not a fan of 8-year-olds. Now, 8-year-olds can win, obviously. I get it. They're not in their prime. Even a horse off the claim. I mean, I understand the stat with Falcone, and maybe Aristocrat's just going to run off the screen, and I'll be wrong. I don't know how much improvement you can do with an 8-year-old. I'm just not a big fan of 8-year-olds. That being said, every one of those 8-year-olds, I think it was the 2, 5, and 6, all of them can win. So that's one thing. But take a look at Prince James, guys. There's a lot of things I like about Prince James. Let me speak about this horse a little bit. First of all, and Pete, I know you're going to love this, so Pete, pay attention because I did some very deep diving on this horse. Let's talk about David Donk, first of all, who, by the way, has already run twice. He's 2 for 8 already at the meet, okay? David Donk, not very good off the claim. In fact, bad off the claim. I'm going to go ahead and bring myself just to emphasize the visual here. David Donk, 0 for 17, first off the claim, okay? I'm a math guy. You don't think math guy know that sucks, right? Now, it's not a huge sample size, but it is what it is. 0 for 17 off the claim, okay? But 47% in the money first off the claim. So it's not like these horses aren't running at all. They just start winning, okay? Not only that, guys, when you claim a horse for Saratoga, I throw the stats, I won't say out the window, but to me it means less. Now, here's the stat that I really like, and it's not just about stats. Um, at Saratoga, David Donk and Jose Ortiz at Saratoga last 5 years, 21% on the win, 53% in the money. So when David Donk has a horse he really likes, he goes to Jose Ortiz. Now let's take a look at this horse, okay? Guys, explain to me why this horse can't win this race. All he did is run upper 80s. He's got a 94 buyer against, fine, it was against cheaper. This horse is as classy as any of these, if not more classy. Was running very well for several starts in the spring. And then for some reason they stretched him out to a mile and 16th. It was a crazy fast pace. He got caught up in it. That's a complete toss. And you know what, guys? I love it. I love the fact that that's his last running line. And Pete, I know we've talked about this a lot. Everyone looks at the last running line way too much. This horse lost by 36 plus lengths. Everyone's going to say this horse sucks. They claim him off a 36 length loss. They turn him back. This field is, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't think the two, I know he's just claimed, but the two is like, was unbelievable at Keeneland. He just, I don't know. He's speed, and I think his better days behind him. I suppose the 3 can win, but I think the 1's better closer. Wendell Fong I like, but Chad Summers has a low percentage, and Tyler is 1 for 25 at the meet. Aristocratic is the horse I don't have that I probably should. But you know what? There's other speed in the race, Pete, and unless this horse breaks on top, like he's no sure thing. And even when he does, I don't know. Isn't Happy Farmer breathing right down his neck? So it just seems like there's a lot of speed. I'm looking for someone fresh. I see no reason why Prince James, guys, can't be a major factor in this race. If not on the win end, at least underneath. There you go. Prince James, go hate at me. Pete and Paul, what do you think?
No, I actually almost had him. I almost had him in the 3rd spot. He was in my final consideration. The thing that put me over the top for him, because again, most of what I'm looking at for the show is who do I think is going to win if we're putting in a horizontal, and not that this horse can't. This horse doesn't love to win, and that was the only thing that. So the Dunk,
I don't like 3 for 22. I
3 for 22.
That's a big negative. That's why I would definitely, again, the back wheel try underneath.
No, and I like that even more because I do think this race. Yeah. I think everyone has a knock against them. So if one runs above whatever they are, then they definitely have a shot to win. But I love this horse to hit the board. I mean, I would love this horse underneath, and I would definitely use him underneath. Again, it was the Dunk stat threw me a bit because I don't like the 0 for 17. And then I didn't like the fact that the 3 for 23, 2 for 15 the last 2 years. It was just tougher. Well, but again, I don't think I actually think it's very logical. And you just really like it because 3-2 zone beat him 2 back, and that's your horse of the week.
Yeah,
so you really,
I mean, I didn't even mention that. That's a very small part of it. I'll just what I'm doing, guys, and I don't think the 3 is going to win, but I respect your opinion, Paul. I'm just not going to use them on top of my tries. I don't think I'm going to use the 2. I think I'm just going to go 4, 5, 6 with 1 with blank, and then 4, 5, 6 with blank with 1. And so if he finishes 2nd or 3rd, that's fine by me. Paul, any last thoughts on Prince James before we go last?
The only thing, a few things. How Donk off the claim at Saratoga is only 0 for 5 in the last 3 years, so he doesn't do it that much. And he did win 2 races on Sunday, as you point out. We saw that New York Jets hat. It's the only way the Jets are going to win anything is by being on top of David Donk's head.
Hey, they spent some money this year. They might be better.
They did. I would tell you that I think the 2, that's a confident move. They claimed him. Oh, and you mentioned off the claim, the 36 length loss. Obviously, the claim slip goes in 15 minutes before the race. And I think if they knew he was going to lose by 36, the slip might not have been in. But I think the 2 is, I like it. You got to like it when a horse gets claimed and then they move him up, even only moving him up modestly from 32 to 40. That's a show of confidence. And, Kirtamachi's an underrated trainer. Although he did lose to Al Cools, who had no excuse on Saturday, but we don't want to relive. We don't want to relive Saturday again. No, we don't. But no, I think the ones as a player, and I agree with what Pete said. They all have a knock, and in most cases, being 8 years old is a knock. So we'll see.
Hey, Paul, the one thing on the 2 also is through a claim. You like when a top jockey stays on too, and Irad stayed on through the claim. He's had him the last couple times, and he has a win back. What is that? About 5 back. He's won on him, so you kind of like that too. But again, I don't look at any of these horses as sure things. So I think taking a shot with a price makes sense. But
the only thing I'd say about jockeys, Pete, and we talked about this in the show before, and I definitely pay too much attention to it, but at Saratoga, jockeys are going to get on horses that they likely would not get on at Belmont or Aqueduct. Everyone wants to win at Saratoga, and at Aqueduct on a 20-degree December day, would they rather sit in the room than ride a 20-to-1 shot? Yes, if they're a top jockey. At Saratoga, okay, I don't have a mount in the race. I'll take that 30-to-1 shot. You never know. So, but I do agree with you. I like the fact that Irad is on this horse.
Just to clarify for Michael, I did say blank. I mean, it's a 7-horse field. I'd probably just hit the all button. I mean, why get cute? I would go. I don't know if I can use the 4. I'd probably just go 5-6, guys. I think I would go 5. I'd go 5-6 with 1 with all, 5-6 with all with 1, win bet on the 1, and then I'd do a small try 1 with whoever I decide for second with all and third or something like that. But it's not going to cost Michael. It's not going to cost that much money if you agree with me with the 1, because it's a 7-horse field. So I think you're getting more value really on the win end than in the try, because it is a small field. But anyway, let's move on, guys. I'm very interested. We'll see. I could be completely wrong, but it's a horse that I'm very interested in. Let's go to the next race, guys. This is I thought this was a tough race, by the way. Maiden special weight on the turf, scheduled for the turf. We're just going to assume everything's on the turf. I think it will be tomorrow. 5.5 furlongs. Paul, these are 3-year-olds and up. So these are older horses. Paul, we're going to start with you. You're on with the 3 Hay there, which is the morning line favorite for Cox and Pratt. What do you like about this horse, Pete?
And Pratt is off to a modest start. 2 for 19. Cox, on the other hand, is doing just fine. But I think this horse is he's clearly been a turf horse from the get-go, which probably the majority of Cox's horses are more likely to start on dirt. This horse this horse started with Shug, then he went to Brad. But I think the horse is breeding, says turf. He's out of a Stormy Atlantic mare. I think he ran longer last time, and we talked about being careful with that Belmont turf form, but he did show speed last time. I think he figures to get a pretty good trip. We don't know what the first timers are going to do, but I think of the horses around him, he gets a pretty good trip. And, I think he's going to be tough to beat here.
And you have Mr. Green in second for Linda and Liscano. And correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but Liscano is first call for Linda, correct?
Yes, that's her go-to guy. They've had great success together. I'm just
coming out of the same race, by the way, as the Hay there, finished 4th to Hay there by length.
Yeah, and typical turf race, right, Howard? He was 4th, and he was a length and a quarter off. So it's one of those races where you got 4 or 5 at the finish, and some people like that, and some people don't. But in turf racing, it seems to happen more often than not. So again, this horse was on the pace somewhat last time, shortens up a little here. Actually shortens up a lot, furlong and a half. Remember, we talked about this. Belmont, they run 6 and 7 on turf, and Saratoga, it's 5 and 5.5, and that is a difference.
Yeah. Pete, you and I are thinking alike, sir. So I don't want to steal your thunder. We're both going with Chad Brown. We're both going with Chad and Klarovich, and I was about to say this is the first Chad Brown horse I've actually picked on the show at Saratoga. That's not true, because I added that our horse that we're not going to talk about. But we talked about the Chad,
I don't know what you mean.
we talked about the Chad or not to Chad. This is not exactly my favorite Chad Brown horse in the world, but you're going with him as well with Irad.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where this is more of a Chad Brown play. I mean, I like the horse. I think the horse ran behind in the last race. I mean, it was many, many, many months ago, but it ran behind some pretty good horses in the last one. 2 back, it was off the turf. So you don't know. The first rate, the debut was pretty good, 76 buyer. And then I just like the stats for Chad. I mean, he's got a 42% wins with 300+ day layoffs in the last year. That's just unbelievable. And it wasn't like 4 out of 10. It was a decent if I remember correctly. This is the only 4-year-old in the race too. So, and it doesn't really have much more experience than them, but it's the only 4-year-old. I don't know if that's good or bad. I think generally it might not be great, but whatever. It's a little bit older. It's maybe, maybe it's filled out a little bit more. And then again, I had a couple little Chad Brown stats. He's 3 for 6 wins and 6 for 6 in the money with 4-year-old and ups in like a maiden special weight turf sprint. So under these conditions with an older horse, it's short sample size, but he's pretty good with them. So all of that wrapped up, I just think this is one that you kind of put on the ticket.
My general opinion, and I'll show the end of this race, is I just didn't like this race. This is a race that Mr. Green finishes second and Hey There finishes third. I don't know. I just didn't seem to be a lot. And I got the sound.
I own a piece of Frosted Oats, and that's when she broke her Maiden. So relax a little bit there. This was a lovely race.
you own so many horses, Pete. It's hard. For
I know it's so. Yeah.
Is that with
my racehorse? Yeah.
My
so
racehorse, sorry.
Yeah. You're not making any money.
This is Hey There, and I mean, I don't know. It just it feels like she should have won the race. I know, and Paul's horse, Mr. Green, is right here. I mean, tipped out, but really didn't make a big move. I don't. This race just seemed very meh to me. I don't know. That was one of my reasons that I went with the two, and that I agree with Pete here. The two, is Klarovich, Chad. Everything that Pete said, I don't really have much to add. I just think this horse with a little bit improvement will win this race. I just want to mention the 4 Bally Dove is a Wesley Ward horse who is second off the layoff, might be able to wire the field if she gets loose, but I'm not really a huge fan of this horse either. I don't know, guys. I don't want to. We don't need to talk too much about this race. It's a tough race. It's a spread race. I think we'd all pretty much, agree with that. Even if something really bizarre happens, like it wouldn't surprise me. I would go pretty deep if people can afford it, because I don't know. The first time starters, I don't look like they're gonna be much of a factor either. So it's probably be the 2 or the 3, or maybe Paul's 6, but that's the way this race looks. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next race, guys. Race is, I'll go ahead and switch things around here. Race 8. Let me go ahead and switch the banners right there. Boom. There we go. All right, on my game. Race 8. Optional allowance, 62.5 claimers. They're going 6 furlongs. This is for older fillies and mares on the dirt. So this is another race I thought was pretty tough. The morning line favorite looks familiar, guys. The number 2 Smash Ticket. Yes, that was a horse that was scratched out of the Victory Ride, if I remember correctly, the name of the race, at the Cluster F race that none of us liked the winner at Belmont. What was it, 2 weeks ago on closing weekend for Rob Atras and Kendrick Carmouche. And Pete and Paul, you're both going with that horse. I've got her in second. Pete?
Yeah, actually, I remember picking this horse on the show last time, and this one, you were right. This is the spread race for me, though, Howard. When we get to our tickets, I think I'm six deep in this one. As I was going through, there were just things I liked about so many, and it wasn't for me. It was weird because it wasn't a spread because I didn't like horses and just thought it was crap. It was a spread because I was like, man, I really like this one. Man, I find something I like about this one. So I just kept doing that, and like, you know what? I'm going to spread and see if you can get a price. And I don't know if the 2, the 2 is one where it looks good. That night, I think we talked about it last time. That 92 buyer looks great. The 1 by 11 lengths looks great. It's going to take money because of that. So just that in itself, I like too that it's versatile. It's done a little bit of everything. It's been on the lead. It comes from, last time it stalked a little bit and then sort of just pounced, whether it was a good field or not, doesn't say anything. Even 2 back, it was sort of bumped. It had a really crappy ride. It was bumped and steadied in that grade 2, still wound up finishing 3rd as the favorite. So all this stuff is, I think, what we talked about last time. Right. I just think it's a logical horse. If it can repeat that last race, it's just better than everyone in here.
Now, I know what to do with the 9. Pete, this is usually, you got this horse second. I've got her on top. So again, Pete, you and I are thinking alike, and just let's put it on screen. Just FYI for everyone, let me repeat, I do not have inside intel from Ray Handel on this particular horse. I did not talk to Ray Handel. I don't talk to him every day. He's not like my best buddy. I don't want to, I don't want to rub people the wrong way or think that we're best buddies and we talk about every of his horses. We really didn't talk too much about 3-2 zone other than he was on my show and I talked to him. I could get intel, but again, I don't want to be the kind of person that bothers these trainers, like every day. They don't need that. They're too busy for that. I don't know what to do with this horse. I had her on top just because it was a wide open race, and I thought maybe she could just wire the field again. And why can't she just keep getting better, Pete? I don't know. Why not?
I mean, I agree. I think it's one where if you look 3 back, it tussled with Kathleen O, and we know what she turned out to be. 2 back when it broke the Maiden. If you look at that field was absolutely terrible. It was in the slop, which this horse ran 2 good races on off tracks. You don't know what that means, but then it did come back on a fast track. I love, what I like? I always say this on the show a million times. I like when a horse comes back, especially 2 over 3, 3 over 4, where they improve. So her first race back in 22, she pops an 86 buyer. She gets on the lead. She didn't cut like terrible fractions. They were modest. They were fine. She's at a Practical Joke, which Practical Joke with sprinting horses is really good. And I just think it's one that it's 2 for 2 at the distance. It sort of just has a lot of things that you like. And if it can, again, improve again off that first race, then it's up there with the 90, potentially with the 90 something that the 2 horse ran. And now you're in business with this one.
So she's got a 108 early time form. She is the fastest early. I think the break is going to be huge because Kendrick, you think, has to hustle from the rail, Pete. And I could see the 9. Yeah. I could see the 2 and 9 hooking up, which would obviously be disastrous for us. But I think if one of them gets loose somehow, they are both very dangerous. There's 2 other horses we got to talk about in this race. One I like. Well, Paul, let me ask you a quick question. If you're Kendrick, do you let the 9 go and come around? You just break and see what you got? Do you think the 2 has to be on the lead in this race, breaking from the rail? Any idea on Kendrick's strategy, Paul, if you own the horse? It's a tricky spot.
It is, Howard. And I think in another post, I think maybe he does. But, we know Kendrick is wired to go, right? And Pete, I'm glad you brought up the Sorrento because, I went into this race wanting to be against the 2. And then I started watching replays, and it really was. He really did have a tough trip in the Sorrento, which is a grade 2 race. And then I looked at Atris, and Atris first time training on the dirt, first time training a horse that he takes over on the Naira circuit is 17%. 0 for 5 at Saratoga, but 17%, and he just has solid numbers with shippers and. Interestingly, this horse has 3 siblings who are all New Mexico breds. And here's this Kentucky bred who's running at Saratoga tomorrow. So I went into the race against the horse, but I think that either Kendrick goes or at worst sits off the 9. And I just think he gets a good trip. The real wild card, Howard, I think, or one of the wild cards, is the 3.
Well, before we talk about the 3, Gemini brings up a great comment. And I'll be honest, Gemini, I did not know this. I did not have time to look at the bias. They are available. Andy Soden does a great job on Naira if you look for it. He does talk about track biases in certain days. Gemini, that's great information. That actually might change my opinion. So appreciate that, Gemini. There's 2 horses we need to talk about here. One is the 3 and the other one is the 6. So very quickly. The 3, Faraway Love, is an Argentine bred that Bill Mott is taking over and was a complete freak in her first 2 starts. Running, how about that first start, Pete? 108. Yeah. I don't care if it's the Hippodromo or Fauna, or I don't care. Well, if it's Fauna, it'd be, like a 106. But anyway, 108 is fast. And then went right into a grade 2. Paul, we're talking about the 3. That one first started in 108, then went right into a grade 2. And won. But again, guys, it's a grade 2 with the purse of 16,000 in Argentina. And then they try to stretch her out in the grade 1 and finish 3rd. Paul, what does it say to you that Mott is starting this horse in a 6 furlong race? I almost see that as a negative, but I have absolutely no idea about this horse. I'm going to let the board be my guide. This is the 3rd leg. We won't know. I've got her as I bring you on the screen again. Let me look at myself really quick. What is this race, 8? I've got her as a C right now. I might move her up to a B. I honestly, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say because the long layoff too could have something to do with coming back in a sprint as opposed to a route. But Rosario takes the call.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those horses, Howard, that after the race at Saratoga, you say, "Hey, how did Joel Rosario and Bill Mott just pay $22?"
Yeah.
I'm not saying I like the horse. I'm saying you on an ABC type ticket. And I used them. I'm with Pete. Pete, I'm 5 deep in this race on the Caveman, and he was the 5th one I threw in.
By the way, Dean brings up a good point. That particular race was a straightaway race, so that does matter. I got a weird feeling this horse is going to take a lot of money, and I'm probably going to move her up when I think about it more, just because I don't love a lot of others. And the other horse is the 6. I think Michael Bryan on the chat asked about Betsy Blue. Paul, you got this horse in second, so you think this horse has a shot also. Very
well. I'll
consistent.
tell you what, Howard.
13 of 14 in the money, Paul. Unbelievable.
And in the last race that this horse ran, 2 horses have come back to run. One of them improved the buyer by 14 points, and the other one by 19 points. So I'm going to say that was with a limited sample. I'm going to say that's a pretty good race, right?
Yeah,
and that horse who won, Paul, is better than anything else in this field. That horse who won that race.
Yes, Pete. Did that horse come back yet? No, he hasn't come back yet.
No, it hasn't.
There's
But I mean,
Paul. No,
that horse is pretty nice. Yeah, that horse is
very nice.
I mean, it's a Chad Irad. It's a it's a Stone Street. It's a good horse, and so that's not nothing losing to that one by 5.
If someone puts up a 95 buyer in this race, they can start getting ready for their picture at the top of the stretch.
Yeah. Tough race. Very tough race. By the way, I love all the comments. Please make sure you keep typing in comments in the live chat. We got a lot of people here. By the way, Siggy Mendoza, Siggy, I apologize. I don't know where you're from originally, but he just mentions that U.S. is different speed than South American speed. Absolutely true. So, and Siggy would know because I believe that he's from there originally. So, Siggy, appreciate that comment. Let's go on to the next race, guys. This is going to be race 9. This is the penultimate leg of the pick 5 here. Why is it not turning over? Oh, there we go. This is the Suzie O'Kane Stakes. This is a 1 1/16 miles on the turf. 3-year-old restricted New York bred fillies. So it's a very interesting condition here. The morning favorite is a Christophe Clement horse, pretty heavy favorite, 7-5. She's Mia Rosario. First call for these guys, for this barn, takes the call. I'm going to go ahead first, guys, if you don't mind. And I've got a sort of a wise guy pick here that, frankly, I have absolutely no idea if it's going to work out or not. I watched She's Mia. I'll just talk about She's Mia first anyway. I got to tell you, she doesn't do a lot for me. Maybe she's just better than this field, but like she's not. Is she improving? I mean, she ran a 72 buyer last year, guys, and then this year has run 2 73s. And her last race, she really did not have many excuses. She lost to a decent horse, but I don't know. She's coming back in like 3 weeks. Also, just there's a lot of things that I don't like about She's Mia, other than the fact that she looks like she's the fastest on paper. So I don't know. People can decide. I think 7-5. If you're going to bet a win bet on this horse, I think 7-5 is a crazy underlay in my opinion. Guys, I'm interested in Classic Lynn a little bit. Joe Sharp is really good off the layoff. This horse has one race going 2 turns. It was last year as a 2-year-old in October and won very well at 64 buyer. Has been training well. Obviously can get the distance. Has tactical speed. I really don't have a lot to say about this race, guys. I think it's very difficult. I guess my main thing that I want to say is I'm not sold on She's Mia. She just doesn't, I don't know. She can win. She doesn't do much for me. I've got the 3, Lisa's Vision. I like Jorge Abreu. I don't know if this horse gets the distance. Another horse with tactical speed. Again, I don't like the 5-2 morning line at all. Guys, I thought if the 5 doesn't win, I thought it could be many others. I'm not a huge fan of the 5. Paul, you're thinking the same way as I do.
Oddly enough, Howard, 4-5. Yeah, this is the only race that And yeah, until tomorrow afternoon. This is the only race in a caveman that I was down to 2. I didn't single anywhere, and I went with these 2.
Okay.
And the 5, I kind of agree with you. The 5 is more a defensive pick, and Howard, the answer to your question is why is this horse running back in 3 weeks? Is because there's a race for 3-year-old New York fillies
Right.
with
No, I didn't say why.
125,000.
I'm sorry. I don't think I said why she running back. I think she said I just don't like that, but I understand why.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, and my point is I don't think she would be if there weren't $125,000 on the table tomorrow. And this horse ran second the last 2 races at 6-5 and 2-1. Right. So for me, she's a defensive use. But Joe Sharp has won a race. This horse has only run on turf twice. He broke his he started at Saratoga last year.
Paul.
She started at Saratoga last year. Eventually. I know, no kidding. And then broke her maiden on it. And the last race was on the slot, but Venti Valentine turns into a pretty good racehorse. So I think I'd be very happy with 4-1 on the 4, Howard.
And by the way, in the other dirt race, she lost a Classy Edition, who's also a nice horse. Right.
Yeah, and the turf breeding's okay on the dam side.
Yeah.
Right? So
I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think this horse is okay.
Pete,
but what about Pete? What about our host, Pete? What does Pete say?
I'm not hosting today, so I have no smarts today. I don't know anything.
I don't know how much Pete loves She's a Mia, but talk real quick. And then you mention the one, Pete, and then we'll move on.
No, well, I actually singled She's a Mia in our pick 5, but not because I love her more than anything else. It's just more of a
singling the 7-5 hit a horizontal bet. Boo.
Hey, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Not when I hit the 3 bombs when the Argentinian horse wins at 12-1 in the prior race, then I'm going to be singing it beautiful too. Yeah.
Hell, I'll tell you what, I'm going to say 5-1 on that Argentina horse tomorrow. But anyway, we'll see. Go ahead.
By the way, and this was one where there were so many horses in this race where there were just terrible stats against them. And I didn't like any of them on paper. And then there was just some bad stats that I just didn't like. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna overthink this one. I'm gonna go with the 5. Hope because Clement's actually pretty good coming back in that short of a stretch. So he's actually, I think he's like 20-something%, 50-something percent in the money. So he's pretty good on those quick turnarounds. Like the 3 Lisa's Vision. I don't know what was that stat that just did you just put one up? Oh, go sprint, route, bred to stretch out. Yeah. So I had the sire was 6% in turf routes. Abreu is 1 for 27 first route on turf if you exclude first time starters. So I just had each one of them had a little something. And again, I just sort of threw my hands up in the air and said, you know what? I kind of like the 5. I like the quick turnaround potentially. Maybe they think she's fit and they want to get her back, or it's just the fact, like Paul said, that they just see the nice purse and they can fit her in this race. So
going to try to wire the field, do frames.
Well, that was I put the 1 in second purely for the the speed from. Yeah, Saez on a speed horse from the rail can just gun it out, and then there's not a ton of speed. The second best speed is a main track only, so it's probably not going to get in. So this one is speed by a pretty decent distance. So I was like, okay, if this one just jumps off the rail, I mean, look at those. That one, the 130, 121 time forms last time.
In open company, by the way, I've got the 1-3. By the way, I have the 1-3 as B's. I just realized, Pete, within the first weekend, I broke my rule. Remember, I put my hat up. I swore I wasn't going to lose to a speed horse on the lead with a price, and an Italian does it for me in the biggest race of the weekend. So
it's unbelievable.
I already upped up my pledge.
I fixed that. I fixed that today. I'm going with. I'm not including the speed of the speed in any of these races if I can help it.
Hey, Pete, Michael Bryan. We've talked about this before, and Paul, feel free to chime in. You got 3 horses that have been on Lasix that are off. It's not something that I pay attention to, but Paul or Pete, any thoughts there on Michael's interesting comment?
It's a factor. You have to decide, how much of a factor, but it's a factor. But I will tell you the 3, Howard, is a horse that I think is going to take money that is a better get. If you want to talk about a non-key race, take a look at the race the 3 is coming out of and what the horses, they've all run back except for him. 1 second, 1 third, and the
Oof.
rest of them have been 4th, 5th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th,
Not good.
all at big odds. So I
Okay.
am definitely against the 3. And I'd like to acknowledge, Howard, in the chat, my good friend Dr. Jeff Mora, who I will be bunking down with at Saratoga in just
there he
another
is.
2 weeks. He is heading up there Sunday. He's going to beat me there, but he promises to have a drink ready when I get there.
Jeff, I hope to meet you someday. It's not going to be this summer, but perhaps next summer we can all work out that out. But Jeff, enjoy your time up in Saratoga. All right, guys, let's go on to the last race. This looks like to be a spread for sure. Last race, go to there. I should let Pete switch everything. See how he does. Get some prayer. I don't actually. You can't switch everything, can you, Pete?
Yeah, I can't. I could share my screen. I can't share your screen, obviously.
Yeah, okay, no worries.
We're not that technically sound.
The last race of the Pick 5 tomorrow is a Maiden 40 claimer on the turf. 5.5 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up. It's a cluster F. It's a huge field. I'll run it down there all the way. It's a field of actually 10 if both the entries run. You got a morning line favorite, number 6, Blinding Light, a Pennsylvania bred for George Weaver. It's actually got a 2 in here for Manny Franco. And Paul, I'm going to go to you. I thought this was a very difficult race. You are going with the 1, which it doesn't look like myself or Pete has at all the money. Was it the 1 or the 1A you liked more? I know you get both of them, Paul, but did you prefer one of these two?
I prefer to have 2 for the price of 1 in a race like this, Howard.
All right, well, go fire away, sir. What do you like about entry?
We'll start with if on the bottom, the 1A is certainly the breedings there with a tourist who I'm a little partial to, who won the Breeders' Cup Mile the day that we hit the Pick 6 in the Breeders' Cup. But he's bred for it, and Chris Engelhardt does well with a small sample. The horse I would like to talk about, how I'm really, if Pete were putting up his stats tomorrow, he would have a negative stat on this 6, because shipping into Saratoga in this situation, going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming, Weaver is 1 for 12. So I'll be against the 6, and I want the entry, and I do have Weaver on the hometown horse, the other horse, because I always want Saez in a race like this, Howard, because I always think there's a chance he's just going to go and not stop. He will be aggressive. So those would be my top 2, the entry and the 3.
Hey, Paul, sorry, Howard. I was just going to say real quick for Paul, I actually had a Weaver 0 for 11 with the combination of dirt to turf and the drop from maiden special weight to maiden claiming as well. So that's why I was it gave me enough reasons to dump the 6 out of everything I was doing.
He should be a lock by now.
Yeah, it's an easy winner. Wins by 7.
Have the 6 I have the 6 and 2nd for just some of those stats I wasn't aware of. This horse is not bred at all for turf. Like 0 turf breeding. I mean, she's out of a hard spun, mare. So I suppose, but basically very little turf breeding. The only reason I like the 6, well, 2 reasons. One is early speed in a bad race, and number 2, Weaver obviously thinks the horse can run on turf because this horse has been training over the turf at Saratoga for 4 times. So, but I agree with you guys in general. I'm not a huge fan of this 6. Paul, do you want to mention anything else before I go to Pete here?
No, I like I say, if I were blowing caveman, I'd be focusing on the 1 and 3. But in an ABC, I will have the 6 probably very defensively in an ABC. But the 1 and 3 would be my top selections.
By the way, speaking of jockeys,
I need both parts of the entry to go out. This is a math problem, Howard. You should appreciate it. I want twice the chance with the 1.
I hear you. By the way, for people who didn't hear, Junior Alvarado has officially moved his tack to Saratoga now. So you're going to see Junior Alvarado is a very excellent veteran jockey, a guy that I saw at Arlington cut his teeth there, but he's been around a long time. But he is now at Saratoga, so you're going to see him there. All right. Pete, you're going with super quality. who apparently is super quality. This is the other Weaver.
Yeah, this is the other Weaver. The second off the layoff, came back. They put the horse a little, not much of a layoff, but a couple months. But they put this horse on the turf in this same company. It runs a nice race. It runs a nice race. It runs a nice buyer. The horse that won, Starry Night, came back with a 71 buyer and a starter allowance. So there was some quality at least ahead of it. So it wasn't like it lost to some dog. And actually the 4-horse, the 4-horse is okay. It's nothing terrible, but at least there was something in that race. I also liked the last 2 works. You see the Bullet 48. You see the 49-1, which is only 2 out of 64. It's not the best time, but at least it seems like it was sharp a little bit going into that last race, and it came out of the race sharp, which I generally like. And then it keeps Saez again, which of course I think what Paul said, it makes sense. In a race like this, I like Saez. There is some speed. We have 4 horses with the 100+ time form ratings, 2 with 120+. So hopefully there's some speed up front. And this one looks tactical enough to be able to sit off that speed with Saez and then hopefully pounce.
Well, there is a lot of speed. The 3's got speed. The 4's got speed, like Pete just mentioned.
Yeah.
The 6 has speed. I think there was another outside horse. The 8 absolutely has speed.
The 8 is fast.
Pillars. But I don't. I mean, even if the 8 outbreaks everyone, I have zero confidence the horse can get the distance. And then I have a feeling one of these outside horses is going to show speed. Because of all that, guys, I went with Rum and Tonic, who, if you look at this horse real carefully, first of all, I like Michael Maker, and I like the drop in class. I think that's what this horse needs. I don't think Tyler's going to be sending. I think Tyler's just going to sit on the inside. This horse, ran okay on dirt also, but I think has a little more of a turf breeding with the Candy Ride and Mizzen Mass there in the second family. Seemed to be just as good as everyone else. And I just wasn't really blown away with a lot of horses. I was trying to go with a little bit of a price. So I'm thinking that Rum and Tonic will sit on the inside, wait for a hole, maybe find some room and get there at a decent price in a race where, frankly, guys, there's a lot of horses I don't like. And I really wanted to find a closer, but I couldn't find one. Although I think the 7, and Pete, you got the 7 in second. And actually, last horse we're going to talk about, I've got the 7 as a B. Big Woo. I actually find this horse really interesting. You want to talk about Big Woo for a second? Because on paper, I mean, he DNF last time, and you have him second. I have him as a B.
Yeah, I mean, I almost like that better where, I mean, it looks like something must have happened. I mean, first of all, they tried to put it on the turf and it got taken off. Then whatever happened in that race, it was eased and just sort of walked off. And then it's been off since October. But I like, if you look 3 back on that workout tab, it's got a 46-4 at Churchill, which is fantastic. Then it comes back with a 47-4 at Churchill, 48-1. So this horse just seems sharp. I love the angle of first time gelding, first time Lasix as well. So I don't know if maybe there was a bleeding problem in that first one. It didn't have Lasix last year when it ran. It picks up Jose Ortiz, which is great. And it also has, there was actually some good horses in that race. Not that it mattered because it didn't run, but there was actually, they had it in a pretty decent maiden special weight. I mean, Camp David, I think, came back in, was in the Matt Wynn recently. So, there's some solid horses in there. Yeah. Wicked Genius, I think is okay. Again, no world beaters, but at least it looked like it was a decent maiden special. They put this horse in. The only thing I didn't like, I had Catalano at 1 for 25 off this type of layoff, but I don't care about these aren't the best horses. There's negative statistics on pretty much on a lot of these. So I like this one. I almost put it as my top choice. I figured it didn't matter that much because on my ticket, it's an A on my horizontal.
Wayne Catalano's not going to embarrass himself. This is his first starter this year at Saratoga. So I don't know. He's working really. What a surprise!
So the turf breeding is questionable. There's not much there. There's not much pedigree there for turf.
Okay.
No.
Colonel
But I
John
like the
Bottom.
fact, Paul. I like the fact, Paul, that the first race they did, they were planning to run this horse
They
on the
wanted to
turf,
run him on turf.
and
I would
the
agree.
work, and they actually worked. And if he didn't have that workout on the turf, I'd be a little more leery too. But it looked like he went over it well. I mean, a 46-4, you can't cheat your way to that on the turf in a workout. I don't care how fast the turf
Well,
is. It's
that
still
was
a
a
nice
Churchill turf, Pete. So we never know.
Yeah,
what he
that's
was
true. You never
working
know
on.
what the hell it is, but at least he's been on it, and he didn't fall down, and he didn't run like a 52 on it. So I'll take it. I mean, again, and it's 15-1 in a race where we've all said nobody's a world beater. So I'll take that price any day of the week, especially because I'm backing it up with a couple lower price horses.
Paul, for what it's worth, the Dam Ever Queen had one turf start and ran a 77 buyer in a turf sprint at Del Mar. Just throwing that out there. So, but yeah, not a lot of turf breeding. But listen, isn't this the kind of race where some crazy crap could happen? So I don't know who knows.
Absolutely.
Steve, there you go, Steve. Steve, I love you, man.
I like it, Steve. Let's
Freaking go
do it,
for
man.
it, Steve. Why not? There you go.
We got a lot of love for Big Woo in the comments, by the way. That I'm hoping that doesn't mean that this horse is going to wind up being like a 5-1 shot. Let's keep it quiet, everybody.
Not in Saratoga, Pete. The pools are too big for that in Saratoga, Pete.
Guys, as I bring up our pick fives, let me ask you a question. So you own a horse, right? And you're like, what should we call this horse? Let's call him Big Woo. You think he likes me? It's a boy, right? Is this a boy?
For Worcester,
yep.
The nickname of Worcester, Massachusetts, affectionately known as the Woo.
Okay.
The Big Woo.
Okay. Jerry, I don't know. Just what does he call the barn? Woo? Probably. I don't know. By the way, if you're a Cub fan, you might remember Cubs. Woo, Cubs. Woo. There was a guy. Whatever. Anyway, you have to be a Cubs fan to know what I'm talking about. Anyway, these guys have no idea what I'm talking about. All right, let's go on to the pick five. Pete, will have you talk first. There's your pick five. I'll call it out. Pete's got 2-4-5 with 2-3-9 with 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 9 with 5. She's a Mia as a single with 3, 4, 7, $81. Pete, real quick, you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking was I wanted to have a single because I wanted to go really deep in that third leg, and the only soft single that I had was that She's a Me in the fourth leg, but I think I have enough prices around it if a couple of them could come in to make up for the fact that she's probably going to be pretty chalky.
Okay, Paul, you're going 2-3 with 2-3-6 with 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, also very spready in the third leg. With 4-5 with 1, 3, 6, $90.
Yeah, we talked about that third leg. I think it's difficult, and I think the first leg is more difficult and too deep. But Uncle Howard limits me in my. I'm hoping, Peter, to save up on my allowance and someday to be able to do a $108 ticket.
108, yeah. Oh, mine
Uncle
always.
Howard.
I always want to. I did one today where I added a horse and it was at that 108. I'm like, shoot, I got to take it out.
Hey, Pete,
I got to take
Pete,
it out.
You know what? Pete, tomorrow night we could do like a $300.
Tomorrow we do whatever the hell we want, Paul. We're going.
That's why I won't be there, guys. It'll be
Caveman's,
a complete
maybe.
free for all tomorrow, everyone. I
Yeah.
have no idea what's gonna happen.
Howard, speaking of money, I know you're going to talk about your ticket, but when we're done, Howard, before we get off, let's talk about the handle for the first weekend at Saratoga. But you do your ticket first.
Okay. Oh, Ray Handle was amazing. That handle?
No, the LE
handle. I know. Okay, we can talk about that. Here's my pick five. Guys, I'm going completely different than you are in the first leg. And again, we all play ABC, blah, blah, blah. I really like the one, Prince. I can't remember Prince James. I really think he's interesting. And if not, I think Happy Farm is just going to stalk Aristocratic and go by. I would not go that deep in the first leg because I have to go deep other places. So I'm going 1-6 with 2-3-4. I'm going 2-8-9 in the third leg. I didn't even talk about the 8, but again, I'd be praying. I have zero confidence in that third leg, going only 2-8-9, 4-5. And then my spread race is the last race. I have 1A. I understand. Yes, I know I get the 1. I just put 1A in there, guys, because if the 1A is scratched, then I would not use the 1. I just want to make that clear for everyone listening, viewing and listening, that if the 1A is scratched tomorrow in the last race, I personally would not use the 1. I would go a different direction. 2, 3, 6, 7. Also, I'm using Big Woo in the last race. $90. What a surprise. I think it's a very tough sequence in general. I'd love to single she's in Mia Pete. I just don't think she's that good, and I feel like I have to use others there. So a very difficult sequence. Mr. Halloran, Mr. Saratoga Special. We'll end the show with you. Amazing, incredible money spent at Saratoga opening week.
It's incredible. $106.4 million in all sources handled in 4 days, 18% over last year. And remember, last year, people were chomping at the bit because they couldn't go there in 2020, other than those of us who were there with 200 people. But people were raring to go last year. And I'm going to tell you, Howard, they did that. They're up 18%. And I know it's only 4 days, and they were absolutely benefited from a pick six carryover on day 2 and a double carryover on day 3. The weather was great. I get it. But let's just play this out, and let's say you're a math guy, Howard. If they go 18, 20%, they handled $815 million last year for the meet. So you tack on 20% of that. What are you at, about 975?
Yeah.
If the
but again, the carryover, I think.
Well, that's not going to be the last time that happens, by the way. That there's a double carryover.
I don't you think? Not only that, I think the fact that nothing was taken off the turf and there were big fields. The weather definitely factors into this, also. Correct, Paul?
Without question, there's everything lined up. But like I say, I know for a fact people were dying to get at it last year, and they were up 18% over opening weekend last year. I'm saying, Howard, that if everything were to align, could they ever handle $1 billion for the meet?
No. But I'll give you another reason. Like this weekend, for example, you've got Del Mar's opening. Del Mar did not. I mean, nothing was going on last week. I mean,
That's
they really
true.
had themselves. Del Mar's opening Friday. You got the Haskell Saturday. I think this weekend will really tell what kind of. I think it'll go back to the norm. Listen, I hope they handle $1 zillion. I mean, I love Saratoga. I'm just trying to.
Well, Del Mar, remember, Del Mar only interferes on Saturday and Sunday because they start at 7:00 on Friday, and I hope you'll be betting it Friday night from whatever restaurant you're at. That's the only way to do Saratoga is to bet the Del Mar card when you're out to dinner.
I'll be at Salivo Friday night.
Well, there you go. You outside or in?
Outside. I don't know if they're gonna have TVs out there. I'm not sure, but anyway.
But no, I mean that's but I'm just saying though, what a start, and it's
unbelievable.
Attendance was up 10%, and remember the attendance figure takes into account people who have season passes. So yeah, Matt, you're right, Matt. If you put out a good product, and more importantly, a good product with good field size, and that should continue throughout the meet. And
I'll be able to, as C-Money, and you know this, Paul. Every TV in Saratoga Springs will have TVG. What a town, C-Money. I'll be experiencing that very soon. Guys, it's been a real pleasure tonight. We had a lot of people watching, very impressed with our viewership tonight, and great participation by everyone. Just a reminder again, tomorrow, a few quick reminders to the rest of the week now. Tomorrow night, Mr. Pete Visco will be hosting. I'm very excited to hear how the show goes. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Paul, of course, will be co-hosting. They're going to be talking about the Haskell Stakes and the card on Saturday in Monmouth. It's a fantastic card. Again, everyone's going to be looking at those PPs really for the first time because the PPs are not going to come out till literally a few hours before the show. But I'm sure Pete and Paul, at the very least, will, if they don't have straight picks for these races, they will be handicapping these races along with you and maybe taking you through some of their ideas on how they handicap a race, which I think will be very fascinating. I, of course, will not be there tomorrow. I'll be on a flight tomorrow morning, and I have to pack because I haven't even started packing yet. I'll be doing that in just a little bit. Last thing, the Race Day blog. Again, Pete and Paul will be covering the Race Day blog. It's going to be covering Monmouth on Saturday and Saratoga on Saturday. So we look forward to some awesome picks and stats for the Race Day blog. Guys, I think that just about covers it. So for the newest host tomorrow, Pete Visco, and Saratoga Special's own and co-host Paul Halloran, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 159.
Wally Pip. This is your host,
the
Wally Pip.
HHH, known as Wally Pip, HHH Racing Podcast. Please make sure you check out Twitter. Check out Twitter this weekend. I'll be sending out a bunch of stuff. And if you happen to be in Saratoga this weekend, send me a DM or a quick email, and we'll see if we can hook up at the track. I will be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and perhaps the last 2 races tomorrow, Wednesday. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Good luck at Saratoga, not only this weekend, but especially tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Good night.